Hey friends, welcome back to the Victorian Letter Writers Guild and Belle's Library. Today I want to talk to you guys about how to get started with letter writing. So lots of people ask me, how do I get started? What would I write? I really want to write a letter, but I don't know what to say. I get a lot of people who say that they would love to have a pen pal, they would love to exchange letters. They remember how they did that in school. They were assigned someone from another state or another country, and they kept in touch for a while as children but grew apart as they got older. How do I get started in letter writing again? I don't know what to say. So I recently wrote a 9-page letter to my mom, but my mom and I chat on Facebook every single day. Although she lives 1,800 miles away, we keep in touch really well. So how could I possibly have 9 pages of things to write in a letter to her that she hasn't already seen in my daily posting on social media? This is because I am a pro letter writer. So if you're interested in getting started in letter writing, pay attention to this video. Check out the description box below for links on letter writing societies as well as my own exclusive Victorian Letter Writers Guild. Today I'll tell you about my process and hopefully give you some good ideas as well. Many people use texting, Facebook, or other social media as their primary way of communicating with those who don't live close by. But I think that there are a few benefits to actually writing out a letter and sending it through postal mail. For one thing, when you post on social media, there is no record of your conversation. What about preserving family history? Did you know that most of the world history was preserved in writing? We wouldn't have access to any of those things if someone hadn't taken the time to write out a journal or a letter to someone. Much of our history was passed down through letters that people didn't actually think would survive to serve as a record of what was going on in that time period. There's just something about taking the time to compose a letter. It's meaningful. When I sit down and open up a letter that someone has taken the time to write to me, I feel really special. I feel like they took a portion of their life to think about me long enough to write out this letter. It makes me feel special, and I treat it that way. I will wait until things aren't crazy in my home. I'll wait until I have a quiet moment. Sometimes I'll even put a snack out and tea, and I'll go through my pile of letters and just slowly enjoy them. And I want to make my pen pals feel that same way when they receive a letter from me. In addition, letter writing provides privacy, right? There isn't some record of your conversation out there floating around in internet land. It's just on paper, and your pen pal can choose to burn it up if they feel that that is necessary. And I must say that I am a little bit of a doomsday conspiracy theorist, and I just wonder if letter writing might be a more reliable way of communication in the future. Letter writing comes more easier for some than others. If you find that you are struggling to have some words to put down on paper, here are a few ideas. Number 1, stop sharing all of your news via text. Some things can't wait, but many things can. And if you share all of your news digitally, you'll have nothing to write about. Number 2, keep a running list of topics. So my mom loves to hear about everything that goes on in my life. She loves to hear about what my kids are doing and just kind of living vicariously through me. Again, like I said, we live far apart. So I just leave the Notes app open on my phone, and I have one specific note list that is just things to tell my mom. And so I'll write down things in there that I want to remember to tell her in a letter, and that way it's there and I don't forget, but it gives me content for 9 pages or more. Number 3, you could write your letter over the course of a few days. So when you start your letter, you could write the date and time and then write whatever is on your mind that day and then put it aside. And the next day, write the date and time and continue on for a few days until you have a good full letter full of things that you have done. This is an especially good tip if you kind of do the same thing every single day. You'll have a little bit more to write about if you take the time to write it over a few days. Number 4, utilize a calendar and a journal for keeping notes on what happens during your days. This will also make sure that you have a record of what's going on in your life. My calendar keeps me on track with everyone's schedule, so I really rely on it. But sometimes something happens on a particular day and I want to remember it, so I'll write it down on my calendar. And then when I sit down to write out my letters, I can just look back on my calendar and see what sort of things I wanted to remember, what I did that last week. Things like a baby's first step, or a teenager got their license, or I saw a shooting star. All of those things are just quirky little fun, unique things to put in your letter to your pen friend. People love hearing about our everyday lives, and so will our descendants when they pull out the letters that have been collected over the years. Number 5, use detailed descriptions. So this is the time to talk too much. People love a long letter, so feel free to be chatty and long-winded. One way that I do this is I pretend like I'm writing an essay in school. If you went through a basic composition class, they taught you how to start, thinking about what it is you're going to write in your essay. You would start with brainstorming, and then you would do like little cluster writing where you have like the different bubbles, and here's this topic, and then all the details come out from it, and this topic and all the details come out from it. Sometimes I have to do that on paper just to help me remember and come up with things to tell my pen friend. But once I get started, I find that I have a lot of things to share. So here are some general ideas for topics that I like to write about. I like to write about my future goals, maybe this coming week or month, or even years down the road, and things I'm doing to prepare for them. I like to write out a day in the life, so everything that I've done from the time I got up until the time I went to bed. I like to write about what I'm reading and give some book reviews to my pen friend and ask them to send some back. I like to write out my meal ideas and ask them what they're cooking, sometimes even send a recipe if I have the time. I like to think about all the things that we have in common and talk about those things, and maybe even ask a few questions to see what else we might have in common. I like to write about places that I have traveled locally or even internationally, even just a trip to the bookstore or the craft store. I will write about some of the new things I saw, some of the things that I wish I could get, some of my craft ideas, my book wish list, just sharing the things that are rolling around inside of my head. And then I like to ask them questions, lots of questions. That gives me something to write about, but it also gives them something to write back about. Asking questions also can help us give an intro for a topic that we might otherwise feel weird about writing about. So say I want to talk about the trip that I took to England 10 years ago, but that just seems like a random thing to sort of just bring up. So I might ask, where have you traveled to? Have you ever gone anywhere internationally? Then I can lead into, I've gone to England and I really enjoyed my trip in 2013, and then go on about that. It also really helps to have good supplies, good resources on hand for you to make your letter writing more fun. So comfortable pens, that's a big one, especially if you're going to write multiple pages, right? I deal with pain and arthritis in my hands, so I prefer something that will write kind of quickly without a lot of pressure. I can hold it a little more loosely and it will have an abundant flow of ink. So things like gel pens, Jelly Roll and Ink Joy, those are good brands that I like to use. Also, having pretty supplies makes it way more fun. Did you know that you can download tons of beautiful stationery online? There are all kinds of gorgeous patterns and different sizes that you can print out at home. Stickers and washi tape and colored pens and stamps to match. There's so much of abundance. In fact, all behind me here, this is just a tiny little portion of my supplies for letter writing and crafting. I hog them. Hey, my birthday's coming up, by the way, just, as an aside. Another thing you can do to make letter writing easier, especially if you're not used to writing, is to practice handwriting. So you can, again, download and print out handwriting worksheets in several different kinds of calligraphy or cursive writing. Spencerian handwriting. There's all kinds of different forms out there, and you can print them off and just practice tracing over them at home. You can buy books online or at your bookstore that will teach you different forms of handwriting, and just using those books to help you practice the motions that your hand is going to go through to sort of build up those muscles. They're completely different muscles that we use when we're typing on a computer or on our phone. So you're going to find that your hand's going to hurt for a little bit in the beginning if you're not used to regular handwriting. And then look for some societies online that are devoted to letter writing. There are a couple that I prefer. One of them is called swapbot.com. It is a website full of all kinds of fun postal swaps, not just letter writing, but crafting swaps and all kinds of fun things. I will put the link in the description box for swapbot.com. And then also the Victorian Letter Writers Guild is a letter writing society for women that I formed in 2017. It is an exclusive society with limited membership, but we do pen pal matches as well as group swaps many times throughout the year. It is a very active and fun letter writing group specifically for women. If you're interested in that, check out the link in the description box to submit your application. I don't accept everyone, but I will definitely give every application consideration. And lastly, if there is someone that you would love to write letters to, you just need to give them a little inspiration, show them this video, and give them some ideas as well, and maybe that will help you both start a new pen friendship through the mail. I hope this inspired you and encouraged you. Please feel free to ask any questions in the comment section below, and I will see you soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.